April 12, 1944, 04:58 a.m. Outskirts of Villers-Bocage, Normandy, German-occupied France. The rain has stopped, but the cold hasn't. It clings to the skin like a second uniform, heavier than wool, sharper than steel. Mud cakes the boots of exhausted men crouched in a hedgerow, their breath fogging the dawn. Somewhere ahead, a machine gun coughs once, twice, then goes quiet again. Not a warning, a reminder. You can almost feel it, the tension pressing down on their spines, the weight of too many failures stacked one atop another. This is the third morning in a row they've held this line. And the third morning, they're certain they won't hold it much longer. Lieutenant Arthur Hale, 32 years old, stares through binoculars he hasn't trusted in weeks. He's seen too much through them, friends dropping, plans collapsing, men freezing when they shouldn't. His unit, Able Company, 116th Infantry Regiment, has been fighting without rest since crossing into Normandy's interior. The maps say this village is insignificant. The ground disagrees. Behind Hale, the men are quiet, not the focused quiet of confidence, but the hollow kind. Rifles are checked too often, hands shake when they shouldn't, eyes drift back toward the tree line, toward yesterday. Yesterday was a slaughter. They'd advanced at dawn, same as always, same route, same formation. German MG-42s had opened up within seconds, cutting lanes through bodies before orders could even be shouted. A mortar round had landed squarely in second squad, 12 men gone in less than a minute. No heroic last stands. No dramatic charges. Just confusion, screaming, and the sound of men dying where they stood. And now, after all that, headquarters wants them to try again. Hale lowers the binoculars and exhales slowly. His jaw tightens. He knows his men feel it too, the creeping suspicion that command doesn't know what it's doing anymore, that whatever they're missing out here, it's getting them killed. A rustle of movement breaks the silence. A boy steps forward from the rear of the formation. He's thin, too thin for the oversized field jacket hanging off his shoulders. His helmet sits crooked, never quite fitting right. Dirt smudges his face so completely it's hard to tell how young he really is until you look at his eyes. 16. His name is Tommy Weiss. Private, no rank worth mentioning, barely old enough to shave. And yet, he's still alive. That alone makes him unusual. Most of the men avoid looking at him, not out of kindness, out of discomfort, because every time they do, they're reminded of something they don't want to face, that this child has survived things that broke grown men. Tommy wasn't supposed to be here. He lied about his age during the chaos after his village in eastern France was shelled in 42, lost his parents, drifted between resistance cells, supply convoys, abandoned units, learned quickly, or died. He chose the first. Now he stands behind Lieutenant Hale, shifting his weight from one foot to the other, working up the nerve to speak. "Sir," he says quietly. Hale doesn't turn, not now. Tommy swallows, tries again. "Sir, we can't attack like yesterday." A few heads turn. "That's dangerous." Hale finally faces him, eyes sharp. "You think I don't know that?" Tommy shakes his head. "No, sir, I think you know, I just don't think anyone's listening to the ground." A murmur ripples through the men. Someone scoffs under their breath. Hale steps closer, lowering his voice. "Private, this isn't the time." They're watching the road. Tommy cuts in, faster now, words tumbling out. Every time, the hedgerow funnels us straight into their fire. They're not reacting, we're walking into it. "Silence." The machine gun ahead fires again, short burst, controlled, confident. Hale studies the boy, the dirt under his fingernails, the way his eyes flick toward the terrain, not the enemy, but the space between. "You an officer now?" Hale asks. "No, sir." "A tactician?" "No, sir." "Then what exactly are you?" Tommy hesitates, then answers honestly. "I'm someone who learned how not to die." That lands differently. Sergeant Willard Kane, a veteran of North Africa, shifts uncomfortably. He's lost 2 men from his squad already. Good men, strong men, men twice Tommy's age. "And how'd you manage that, kid?" Kane asks, not unkindly, but not respectfully either. Tommy gestures toward the hedgerow, by not moving like they expect. A pause. They know our spacing, our advance speed, our reaction time. They know because we've shown them over and over. We stop when fired on, we bunch up, we freeze. "That's doctrine," Kane snaps. "That's death," Tommy replies. The word hangs in the cold air. Hale rubs his face, exhausted. He should shut this down. He knows that. Letting a teenager question tactics in front of the men undermines authority. But authority hasn't kept them alive. "What are you suggesting?" Hale asks quietly. Tommy points not forward but sideways. "We don't advance at dawn, we move before it, small groups, through the drainage ditch. Use the slope, stay low, don't return fire unless you've already moved." A corporal laughs bitterly, "So we just run." Tommy shakes his head. "We flow, they can't hit what they can't predict." Hale studies the terrain again, this time without binoculars, with memory, with the images of yesterday's dead burned into his mind. The boy is right about one thing. They have been predictable. "And how do you know this works?" Hale asks. Tommy doesn't answer immediately. When he does, his voice is softer, "Because I've watched them miss me." No one laughs this time. The wind picks up, carrying the smell of cordite and wet grass. Somewhere to the east, artillery booms, far enough not to matter yet, close enough to remind them it will. Hale looks at his men, sees fear, sees doubt, sees the quiet resignation of soldiers who feel like pieces on a board someone else keeps sacrificing. Then he looks back at the boy. 16 years old, no medals, no training manuals, just scars you can't see. "Lieutenant," Kane says carefully, "orders." Hale hesitates. And in that hesitation, something shifts. Because for the first time since arriving here, there is an alternative to failure. A fragile one, a risky one, but real. Hale exhales. "Everyone listen up," he says. Heads snap forward. "We're not attacking at dawn." Murmurs surprise, hope, maybe. "We are doing it his way." Tommy stiffens, "Sir." Hale meets his eyes. "You'd better be right." Tommy nods once, not confidently, not bravely. Just honestly. As the men begin quietly adjusting their gear, the machine gun ahead fires again, closer this time, as if sensing something has changed. The boy steps forward into the dark, tracing routes no map ever showed. And none of them realize yet. By tomorrow morning, this forgotten patch of ground will belong to them. Or it will bury them all. The sky is still black when they start moving. Not the deep black of midnight, but that thin, fragile darkness that comes just before dawn, when the world holds its breath. The kind of dark where sound travels too far and every snapped twig feels like a gunshot. Thomas Weiss goes first. Not because anyone orders him to, but because he already knows the way. He slides down into the drainage ditch without a splash, boots finding mud by instinct. He keeps his body low, rifle angled across his chest, elbows tucked in. Behind him, Lieutenant Hale hesitates for half a second, then follows. That moment, when the officer steps into the boy's path instead of the other way around, doesn't go unnoticed. Sergeant Kane watches it happen, files it away. The ditch smells like rot and cold water. Reeds scrape against sleeves. Somewhere ahead, a German sentry clears his throat. Too far to see, close enough to kill. Tommy raises a fist. The column freezes. He waits, counts silently, 1, 2, 3. The sentry lights a cigarette. The glow blooms briefly in the dark, an orange ember floating above the hedgerow. Tommy motions left. They move. Not all at once, never all at once, Two men slide forward while the others stay still. No covering fire, no shouted orders, just movement. Flow. Hale feels his heart hammering against his ribs. Every instinct screams that this is wrong, that without fire superiority they're exposed. Naked. But something strange happens. Nothing shoots at them. They reach the shallow slope behind the village without a single shot fired. Behind them, the sky begins to pale. And still, nothing. They huddle low among broken stone walls and overgrown gardens, the village silhouettes rising like teeth ahead. Hale scans the windows, the rooftops, the road where yesterday's massacre unfolded. German positions are there, he knows they are. But they haven't reacted. Not yet. Tommy crawls back along the line, whispering as he goes. They're waiting for noise, he murmurs, for fire, for panic. Kane frowns. How do you know that? Tommy doesn't stop moving, because that's what I'd do. The words hit Kane harder than he expects. The boy reaches Hale again, points toward the bell tower. MG nest, 3rd floor, they have range on the road but not the gardens. Hale peers through his scope. He sees it now, the narrow firing slit, perfectly aligned to where the unit would have been. They'll swing when they realize, Hale says. Tommy nods. That's when we're already gone. Hale swallows, then raises his hand. 2 fingers, advance. The men move in pairs, weaving between rubble and shadow. A private stumbles, catches himself, freezes. Tommy grabs his sleeve before the sound carries. Slow, he whispers. They hear urgency. A German shout echoes somewhere behind them, distant, confused. Too late. The first shots finally crack through the air, MG-42, fire ripping into empty road, chewing up dirt where bodies should be. The Germans have sprung their trap. On no one. The sound is deafening, relentless, but misplaced. Hale feels something surge in his chest. It's not triumph. It's disbelief. They reach the edge of the village as the sun crests the horizon, turning smoke and dust into gold. Tommy gestures toward a collapsed stable. From here, he says, we go vertical. Vertical, Kane asks. Up, then down. Moments later, they're inside the building, climbing through broken beams and shattered floors. From the loft, they can see straight down into the German rear position, soldiers scrambling, shouting, trying to reorient guns that no longer matter. Hale realizes what Tommy has done. He hasn't just avoided the enemy's strength. He's forced them to expose it. Grenades, Hale orders. The blasts are short, brutal, final. When the smoke clears, the MG nest goes silent. A shout echoes through the village, panic now, real panic. German soldiers pour into the streets, rifles raised, searching for a front that no longer exists. That's when Hale gives the order. Now, Able Company moves like a living thing. Not charging, not shouting. Advancing. Shots ring out from windows. Return fire answers instantly, not wild, not desperate, precise. The Germans are reacting to shadows. They're too slow. Within minutes, the village is theirs. By mid-morning, it's over. No heroic speeches, no flags raised. Just men standing in disbelief among the wreckage, alive. Kane sits heavily on a stone step, helmet pushed back, staring at his hands. We didn't lose anyone, he says quietly. Hale checks the casualty report twice to be sure. 0. Across the square, Tommy leans against a wall, breathing hard. His hands shake now, not from fear but release. Hale approaches him. You just rewrote the manual, he says. Tommy shrugs weakly. Manuals don't bleed. Hale almost smiles. But the war doesn't pause for victories. A runner arrives breathless from Battalion HQ. New orders. A German counterattack forming less than 3 kilometers out. Armored. Infantry. They're coming back. Hale looks at the men, tired, exhilarated, vulnerable. Then he looks at the boy. 16 years old. Can we do it again? Hale asks. Tommy's eyes flick to the horizon, where dust already begins to rise. We can, he says, if they listen. Behind them, the sound of engines grows louder. This battle is not over. The first German engine coughs to life just after noon. It's a deeper sound than gunfire, heavier, mechanical, the kind of noise that vibrates through the ribs before it ever reaches the ears. Tommy hears it before anyone else. He straightens slowly, eyes narrowing toward the eastern road where heat shimmers above broken asphalt. That's not trucks, he says. Lieutenant Hale already knows. He doesn't answer. A Panzer's silhouette emerges from behind a farmhouse, angular, deliberate, unstoppable. Infantry follows in its wake, spreading out with practiced discipline. The Germans are adapting. Sergeant Kane spits into the dust. They learned. Tommy nods once, so did we. Hale pulls the officers and NCOs into the shadow of a bombed-out bakery. Maps are unrolled on flour-dusted stone. The village they took so cleanly now feels like a trap waiting to close. We can't hold against armor, Kane says, not with what we've got. Hale looks to Tommy. The boy studies the map like he's reading a memory rather than ink and paper. His finger traces alleys, rubble piles, choke points. They won't expect us to stay. Tommy says, so we don't. Retreat, someone asks. No, Tommy replies, we make them think we ran, then we make them stop. Silence. Hale leans closer. Explain. Tommy points to the narrow bridge at the village edge. They'll funnel armor through here, tight turn, limited visibility, infantry will stack behind it. And then, Kane asks. Tommy looks up, then they bunch up. Hale feels a chill. You're talking about an ambush, he says. Tommy nods, the kind that ends fights. By mid-afternoon, the village is eerily quiet. Too quiet. Able Company slips away in fragments, leaving behind signs of panic, discarded gear, scuffed earth, empty positions. Exactly what a retreat should look like. The Germans advance cautiously at first, then with confidence. The Panzer rumbles onto the bridge. That's when Hale raises his hand. A captured anti-tank rifle fires from a cellar window, rounds slamming into the Panzer's tread. Metal shrieks. The tank grinds to a halt, blocking the bridge completely. German infantry surges forward, shouting. And the world explodes. Grenades rain down from rooftops. Rifle fire erupts from windows that were cleared. The kill zone becomes chaos. Tommy moves with the squad, calling distances, angles, timing. Now move. They don't linger, they never linger. By sunset, the German counterattack collapses. The cost is heavy, bodies litter the bridge, smoke curls into the evening sky. Able Company holds. For the first time in weeks, they aren't just surviving. They're dictating. That night, Hale finds Tommy sitting alone, staring at his hands again. You saved them, Hale says quietly. Tommy doesn't look up. I just showed them where to stand. Hale considers that. Word spreads quickly after that, about the boy, about the tactics, about the unit that stopped breaking. But wars have a way of collecting their debts. 3 days later, during a patrol beyond the ridge, a sniper's round finds Tommy's shoulder. He goes down hard. Hale is beside him in seconds. Tommy grimaces through the pain. Did it work? He asks. Hallie squeezes his hand. It worked. As medics carry him away, the men watch in silence. They're no longer looking at a boy. They're watching a teacher leave the field. And somewhere beyond the trees, the war waits, already adjusting. The war does not slow down when Tommy Weiss is carried away on a stretcher. Able company remains on the line, mud-stained and exhausted, but something inside them has changed. The men no longer move like a unit waiting to be told what to do. They move like soldiers who understand the ground beneath their boots. They advance in short bursts. They pause only where the land protects them. They shift positions before the enemy can react. No one announces these changes, no one writes them down, they simply happen. Lieutenant Arthur Hale notices it during the next engagement. German rifle fire snaps from a tree line. In the past, his men would have dropped flat, clumped together, pinned. This time, they slide apart instinctively. Two men move left, one crawls forward, another pulls back 10 yards and fires from a new angle. The enemy hesitates. That hesitation is enough. The firefight ends quickly. When Hale counts heads afterward, the result feels unreal. 1 wounded, no dead. Sergeant Kane shakes his head slowly. That wouldn't have been possible last week. Hale knows why it is now. They are no longer fighting the war they were trained for. They are fighting the war that exists. Over the next several days, Able Company repeats this pattern again and again. German patrols probe. Attacks come in small waves. Each time, the unit bends instead of breaking. The enemy hits empty ground, delayed fire, unexpected angles. Losses remain low. Battalion officers begin to take notice. They arrive with clean uniforms and cautious curiosity. They ask how Hale is managing his sector so effectively. He gives careful answers, nothing dramatic, nothing that sounds like rebellion. But some officers don't like what they hear. One major folds his arms and says, "This kind of improvisation works until it doesn't." Hale nods politely. Inside, he thinks of the bodies on the road before Tommy spoke. Got it. Below is a longer, smoother, plain English continuation, covering Section 4, Section 5, and Section 6, with better flow, more detail, and emotional weight, but no big gaps. This finishes the story. Section 4, the lesson that stayed. The war does not slow down when Tommy Weiss is carried away on a stretcher. Able Company remains on the line, mud-stained and exhausted, but something inside them has changed. The men no longer move like a unit waiting to be told what to do. They move like soldiers who understand the ground beneath their boots. They advance in short bursts. They pause only where the land protects them. They shift positions before the enemy can react. No one announces these changes, no one writes them down, they simply happen. Lieutenant Arthur Hale notices it during the next engagement. German rifle fire snaps from a tree line. In the past, his men would have dropped flat, clumped together, pinned. This time, they slide apart instinctively. Two men move left, one crawls forward, another pulls back 10 yards and fires from a new angle. The enemy hesitates. That hesitation is enough. The firefight ends quickly. When Hale counts heads afterward, the result feels unreal. 1 wounded, no dead. Sergeant Kane shakes his head slowly. That wouldn't have been possible last week. Hale knows why it is now. They are no longer fighting the war they were trained for. They are fighting the war that exists. Over the next several days, Able Company repeats this pattern again and again. German patrols probe. Attacks come in small waves. Each time, the unit bends instead of breaking. The enemy hits empty ground, delayed fire, unexpected angles. Losses remain low. Battalion officers begin to take notice. They arrive with clean uniforms and cautious curiosity. They ask how Hale is managing his sector so effectively. He gives careful answers, nothing dramatic, nothing that sounds like rebellion. But some officers don't like what they hear. One major folds his arms and says, "This kind of improvisation works until it doesn't." Hale nods politely. Inside, he thinks of the bodies on the road before Tommy spoke. Section 5, the boy who wasn't there. Thomas Weiss wakes in a field hospital near Bayeux. The ceiling is canvas. The air smells of antiseptic and damp wool. His shoulder burns with a deep, steady pain. He is alive, something he has learned never to assume. A nurse tells him the bullet missed bone. Another inch and it would have taken his arm. Lieutenant Hale visits 2 days later. Tommy looks thinner, out of uniform, younger. "You should be home," Hale says quietly. Tommy shrugs, "I don't really have one." They sit in silence for a moment. "Your unit is still using what you showed them," Hale adds. "It's working." Tommy looks down at his hands. "Good." That is all he says. Tommy never returns to the front line. By the time his wound heals enough, Able Company has pushed east. Instead, he is quietly reassigned, never officially, never formally, to training details. He teaches without speeches. He shows recruits how sound travels. Why standing still gets you killed. Why the enemy always aims where you were, not where you should be. No one announces his age. No medals follow him. But fewer men die. Able Company continues to fight through the summer and fall of 1944. Other units begin to mirror their methods. Some officers call it adaptive movement. Others just call it common sense. Hale knows the truth. It started with a boy who was tired of watching men die the same way. January 1945. The war is almost over in Europe, though no one says it out loud. It still kills too many men for optimism. Lieutenant Hale stands on a frozen ridge overlooking a shattered German town. Smoke rises from chimneys and shell holes alike. Able Company prepares to move again. The men spread out naturally now, no reminders needed. A new replacement stands beside Hale, young, nervous. His rifle looks too clean. "Sir," the soldier asks, voice low, "how do you survive out here?" Hale thinks of doctrine, of training manuals, of orders that came too late. Then he thinks of a 16-year-old boy standing in the dark, pointing at the ground instead of the enemy. "You listen to the terrain," Hale says. "You don't move where they expect, and you never assume wisdom comes with rank or age." The soldier nods, not fully understanding yet. Below them, Able Company begins to advance, quiet, spaced, alert. Like ghosts. Somewhere far from the front, Thomas Weiss is no longer fighting, but the way he taught others to fight lives on, in movement, in hesitation, in lives spared. He never commanded a unit, never led a charge. But for one crucial moment in the war, a 16-year-old taught experienced soldiers how to survive. And because of that, they won the battle the very next day.